Hello, welcome back to Cracking the Cryptic. As you can see, I'm back on my normal computer today. Had a very early start this morning, so my brain is not probably going to be functioning at full speed, which is a concern because the puzzle that I've slated to do today is a request from Thomas Bigham, and he says it's a diabolical puzzle. I got Mark to check it out in terms of how hard it was, and he says that it has an off-the-scale difficulty rating, which is brilliant. So I don't know how long this video is going to be, or even whether I'll be able to get through the puzzle, but I will try and solve it logically. I know that a lot of you like to see logical solves rather than anything involving bifurcation. Just another highlight as well, some of the videos that we did last week, there were some very interesting logical points during the solves, and I'm going to do a video over the next couple of days where I go through 2 or 3 of those puzzles at the critical junctures and talk about how the logic could unfold differently, and that's thanks to you guys, especially Carl Corbin from North Carolina, who've been producing loads of good stuff on that. So that's something to look forward to. If you do enjoy the channel, please subscribe, we really appreciate it, and let's go. So oh sorry, I should also say, if you want to play this puzzle, just click on the link under the video and that will take you to our software and you can have a go. Look at that, 1, 2 here. So on this block here there must be a 1 and a 2 in these 2 positions. Now, as this puzzle is very highly rated in terms of difficulty, I will start with Snyder notation, so you can see that in 3x3 blocks I'm highlighting where a number can only go in 2 positions, but I am fully expecting to have to go to some sort of more comprehensive pencil marking in due course, because that tends to be the way with the very, very challenging solves. So look, I need to put, what do I need along here? 3, 7, 3, 4 and 7. So 4 into those positions, 7 into those positions, 3 into any of these positions. You can see that gives a 1, 2, 3 triple at the top here, which means I must need 4, 7 and 9 over on the left hand side. I'm tempted to fully notate this actually, just because it's going to be slightly easier to see. 7, 9, so 5, 6, 8 at the bottom. This must be a 5. One of these 2 cells. Still not got any digits in the grid, I don't think. This is a 6 or an 8. So let's just mark this all in actually. 3, 5, 6, 8. 5, 6, 8. And this must be 4, 7. 4, 6, 7 down here. No, can't do anything with that. 4. Okay. There's our first digit. So that gives us a 4 here, 6, 7 pair here. Now this must be a 5, 9 pair above it. So I'm just going to fully pencil mark that in. 4, 2. Wow. These ones, they interact to give us ones in those 2 squares, and that is useful. That means I think this square is the only place a 1 can go in box 7, which resolves the 1, 3 and the 2, and suddenly we're off and running. We've got a few digits. 3 there, means I can pencil mark 3s at the bottom. 2s can be pencil marked into these 2 squares. 8 now, that's useful. This 8 here and the 8 down there interact. That's going to give me a digit here. And the moment I fill that digit, I can fill the 9 as well, because I've just taken one of the 2 positions that we labelled it as valid in this box 2. 9. Must be a 2 in one of those 2 squares. That resolves the 2 and the 1 at the bottom. And gives us some pencil mark 1s down this side. And up here we're still looking for 2, 5, and there's a 5 here as well. So look at that, there's a 2, 5 pair at the top. So this must be a 6. There's a 6 in one of these 2 squares. Let's just check the central column. I need 3, 4 and 6, so 3's there, look, and this 3, I mean this is a 3, that's good. So now there's a 3 and a 4 pointing at this square, so this square is a single, it's a naked 6, and this is a 3 or a 4, and this is a 3 or a 4. You'll see I'll move to central notation here. So where I've got central notation, that's purely looking at the cell. I'm saying this cell can only be a 3 or a 4, so it's nothing to do with this notation, where I'm looking at the box in order to make these ones pencil marked in. Okay, it's gone better than I was expecting so far, so there's almost certainly going to be a horrible sting momentarily. 4, 7 and 8 down here. This square can only be a 7 or an 8. Square can be, I'm going to highlight that, 4, 7 or 8. Let's have a look and see if we can identify anything good in these 3 cells. So you can see that we need 1, 3, 5 and 7. So this square here is 1, 5 or 7. This square here is 3 or 5. That's a bit better. And this square here is 1 or 7. That's also a little bit better. Okay, let me just stare for a second. Okay. Square here has got to be a 6. I don't know why I put 6 and an 8 into that square. 6. So you've got 6 and 9 in the top row pointing at this box. So obviously neither of these squares can be 6 or 9. The 6 or 9 have to be in those squares. I'm not immediately seeing anything as a result of that. These 8, look, there's an 8, 2 8 pair now in this block. Now that means there's a 7 in one of those 2 squares. I'm just going to check the open positions here in this box, because with this 2 8 I've essentially located 5 of the digits, so I need 5, 6, 7 and 9. So this square I think can only be a 6 or a 7. And there you go, there's a pair now in column 1, 6, 7 pair, so this square can only be 5 or 9 now. This square, that's not so good, that's 5, 6 or 9 I think. And this one presumably then is 5, 7 or 9. Okay, right, so what next, you may well say? Ones I can pencil mark over on the right hand side into those 2 squares. 6, 3, apologies, I know this can be a difficult, oops, I was just going to central pencil mark that just to hammer that home. Ooh, I might have spotted something here. If we look at row 4 of the grid and ask, there's only 2 positions that 5s can go into. Hang on, I just want to highlight those for you. These 2. Now, we have got a little chain here, I think, because these 5s can only go in these 2 positions, but look, this is all linked together. Because the 5s can only go in these 2 positions, 1s can only go in these 2 positions, look, in this box. 7s can only go in these 2 positions, in this box. Let me highlight those other cells just so it's a... Oh, for some reason it's not working, I don't know why. So there is a relationship between this square and this square coming through the 7s and the 5s. So let's just think about that for a moment and see what we can work out. Because well, hang on. I need a 1 in one of these squares. If this is a 7, I know, because there's only 2 positions for a 7 in this block, that this will be a 7. But the moment this is a 7, I know this must be a 5, because this all started from me noticing the 5 is in one of these 2 squares. So that just cannot work quite clearly. If this is 7, this block breaks, because I will force 5s and 7s into these 2 positions, and I won't have anywhere to put a 1. And that is all caused because I was able to figure out, I suppose, that there is a relationship between these 3 digits going around here. So that is a nice spot, and it gives us another digit. Only 1 digit, but we'll take it. So that's a 1. Now, can we go... Well, that gives us a 1 up here. And that gives us a 1 in one of these 2 squares. So, well, at least I got something from that. And I can pencil mark 2s now into these 2 squares and into those 2 squares. You can... Oh no, I can't use uniqueness. There's a 5 down here already. Right, hang on a sec though. Let me just... There is something going on with this 6 and this 9, isn't there? Because we have an empty rectangle up here. Now, I think this is very beautiful. So now, I talked earlier about the 6 and the 9, but I hadn't really got to the point where I could see how it works. Now, I'm going to show you one of the most powerful techniques now. It's one of my favourite techniques. Now, what normally triggers an empty rectangle, or thoughts about an empty rectangle, is spotting that a digit, a bit like the 5s here, can only go in 2 positions in a row or column. Now, if we look at where a 6 can go along the central row of the grid, this position can take a 6. This one can't because of the 6 down here. So the only other square is that one. So there are 2 positions for a 6. And I also want to look at where a 9 can go in the row above, in row 4. Now, a 9 could go here, and a 9 can go here. But only in those 2 positions. This 9 down here is powerful. Now, let's look at this block. Now, what we've managed to identify is that the 6 and the 9 in this block are locked into one of these 3 cells. I don't know which one. But the critical thing that we can appreciate from this is that they are either in column 3 or they are in row 3. Now, this is very important for this square here. So let's think about why. So, let's look at the 9s first. If the 9 is in one of those two positions, I know that this square here must be a 9, because there are only two positions for a 9 in row 4, so this will be a 9, and therefore this square here could not be a 9. Impossible. So that's if the 9 is in either of those two positions. If, on the other hand, the 9 is in either of these two positions, obviously this square cannot be a 9. So not only can this square not be 2, 3, 4, 7, or 1, it also cannot be 9. So I'm just going to highlight the things I think this can be. Now this can be a 5, can be a 6, can it? It can be a 7. No, it can't be a 7. It could be an 8, I think. And it could be a 9. So on the face of it, it could be any of these digits. But for the reasons I've just explained regarding the 9s, it cannot be a 9. Now look, we can also use exactly the same logic with the 6. So if either of these two is a 6, this square is forced to be a 6, because there's only two places for a 6 in row 5. Similarly, if that's not the case, the 6 must be in the row, and it eliminates directly. So we get that. This is brilliant. Okay, now this square is a 5 or an 8, which means there is a 5-8 pair now in the column. So, does that help us? The answer is I'm not sure. But I need to get rid of some of this highlighting, so let's try and do that first. Like that. Now there must be an 8 in one of these two. Sorry, oops, I didn't mean to do that. One of these two positions. But no, we can do better. Look, in this square, let me highlight again. This square, oh, I don't know why it's doing this. I think it's because I'm solving using the interface, the Movavi interface, and it won't let me highlight the way you guys will be able to. You can see these are the positions for 8s in box 4 and box 5. So I've not yet managed to put an 8 into the central row of the grid. This in effect forms an X-wing on 8s. So the 8 in this box must be in the central row. If I try and put an 8 here, the implication would be that this square is an 8 and this square is an 8. Well, that's clearly not possible. So, oops, I know this is not an 8 here. This is an 8. Now, does that help? Well, it might do a bit. It's now an 8. One of these two positions, I think. There might well be a uniqueness point we can pull on this situation. Let me just check the rest of this column though. So we need 2, 4, 7 and 9. So this square here can be 2, 4, 7, 2, 7 or 9. That square can only be a 9, which means that one can't be a 9. And this one can't be a 9 down here. So now is this 9? Yes, the 9 is important. That gives me a 9 over here. Well, I knew it was in one of these 3 cells, and this is useful. And now, obviously, the moment I place or I get rid of the 9 from here, we can use the work we did earlier. We know that this must be a 9 in this row. So this is a 9 and this is a 2. Obviously means this is a 2 and this is an 8. And that means this can't be an 8 anymore, so this is going to have to be an 8 up here. I've got a 5, 7 pair here. Over in this box, we still need to place a 4 and a 6 by the looks of things. So let's highlight those two positions and just have a quick stare at it and see if we can see feel like we're on the cusp of something decent here. I can eliminate the 9 from that square as well. 5, 6. 9. This is the only place a 9 can go in this block. So also the 9 and the 5. And there must be a 5 either in one of those two positions. And possibly we can go further than that. This square has to be a 5 or a 7 because there's a 6 in the row. And this square has to be a 5 or a 6 because of the 7 in the row. Okay, so it's not too bad. I'm tempted to go to full pencil mark notation now because it's going to be difficult to... hang on, there's a 9 I can place in the bottom, look, that square there. Now I'm going to look up this column because of the 5-8 pair that I've got, so I know that this square can be 4, 6 or 7, which means that it can only be 6 or 7 because of the 4 in the row. So 2, 5, 6 and 7 into... So this is a 5 or a 6, and this is a 2 or a 7. Again, I feel like I'm missing something obvious here. And you're probably all shouting at the screen. I'm sorry about that, but sometimes it's difficult when you're solving live and on the computer to see clearly. I tend to get very bogged down in intricate logic, where perhaps it would be quicker for me to just sort of scan the rows and columns again and see what's what. So 6 is into one of those two positions. Well, we could use uniqueness here, couldn't we? If this square, well, what are the options for this square? 1, 5, 6 and 8 in theory. Is anything else ruled out from 1, 5, 6 or 8? But obviously, if this was a 5 or an 8, then there's a big problem, because that's going to create a deadly pattern here. These two cells, these two cells and these two cells will form a box on the numbers 5 and 8, and there'll be no way of telling whether it should be a 5 here and a 5 here, an 8 here and an 8 here, or the other way round. Effectively, these 4 cells could be sort of taken out of the puzzle and viewed as a completely different puzzle. And there's no way, as I say, we know that this is a good puzzle, so it'll only have one solution, so there's simply no way this square can be a 5 or an 8 using the uniqueness logic. Now, if that's going to be 1 or 6, probably have to have a check of this square. So looking at the row 1, 4, 5, 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, looking at the column 1, 4 and 5 are the only options. Now, does that resolve anything down? The fact this can't be an 8, of course, is useful, because once I get rid of the 8 here, there's only one square an 8 can go in the block. That's going to be there. 8 and 5. 6. 5 into these two positions. So there's another piece of logic we can now use. There's no 5 in this square. So if there's no 5 in this square, the 5 is forced up into row 1 and 2 in this box, and it matches with the 5 which is also in row 1 or 2 in this box. So it's not possible for this to be a 5, otherwise we'll have the same problem that we had somewhere else. I can't remember where it was, but basically If this is a 5, we'll have a 5 here and a 5 here, a repeated 5. This can't be a 5, so it must be a 7. And that's hopefully, I think, going to be the thing that cracks the rest of the puzzle. My phone is beeping at me, which is even more distracting. 7, 4. Let's go back to the cursor, that might work better. 3, 7, 5, 7. There should be a 5 here, which means 3 and 4 into these two squares, and a 6 here. 7. Sorry. 7, 4. Now, if we come over here, we're looking for 1 and 6, I think, which means this must be the 1, this must be the 6, this is a 1. This can only be a 5 now. 5, 6, 5, 2. And if everything's worked out right, I should be getting a 2 into that square. Let's check. Yeah, and that's the answer. So a long video for a very difficult puzzle, but I felt I was slow towards the end, but quite quick in the middle. Really proud of the spot here in this area, which allowed me to get the 1 into this square, and also with the empty rectangle. That was nice too. So that's how I did it. Do let us know how you get on. If you enjoy the content and are in a position to do so, do consider sponsoring us on Patreon. Again, you can find the link under the video. We really appreciate it. Thanks for watching. We'll be back soon with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.